Okay, it's story time. And today my story is about a girl named Catherine. Now, Catherine was a nurse that I worked with at Sharp Hospital probably 10 years ago. And she worked in the labor and delivery department, but part time with me in the cardiac rehab. So I knew her from work, but I also knew her from my gym in Encinitas. And one day I was on the treadmill at the gym and I saw Catherine. So I waved her over and she came over and she got on the treadmill next to me. So we were talking and chatting and catching up on each other's lives. We hadn't talked in a while. And I said, so how are things at home? She said, oh, well, my father's really been sick and actually he's dying and we have a private duty male nurse there when I'm gone, and that gives me some breathing time. I said, oh, Catherine, I'm so sorry. Gosh, that's too bad. I said, so, Catherine, Catherine was also a Christian, by the way. I said, Catherine, does your dad know Jesus? And she says, oh, no, he's not open to that at all. I've tried many times. I said, really? I said, well, my experience is as people get closer to death, they get softer and they get more open because they're thinking about death and where am I going to spend eternity? And I said, when was the last time you tried to share your faith with your father? She said, oh, it's been a while. I said, well, could I come over and meet him? I would love to share the gospel with him. She said, yeah. She goes, when are you available? I said, right now. And she said, well, let's go. So we stopped our treadmills. We got off. We got in our cars. I followed her to her house. I had never been there before. And I walked into this little hexagon or octagon shaped house. And it was so Catherine because she had this long, wild hair and she's a surfer and she's just a lot of fun. And so I walked in, and her father was sitting up in a chair, and the male nurse was sitting next to him in the dining room at the table. And there was a chair close to him that I could pull up. So Catherine introduced me. Dad, this is a nurse that I work with in cardiac rehab, and she wanted to come over and talk to you about something. And the father said, oh, really? What? And she says, well, I'll let her tell you. So I thought, okay, what am I going to say? How am I going to start? So I sat down and I said, I was talking to Catherine at my gym and I asked her where you were spiritually. And she wasn't sure. And one of the most important things that I feel somebody should be sure of is what happens when you die. I said, have you ever thought about that? He says, oh, you just die and that's it. There's nothing more. And I said, well, could I share something with you that someone shared with me a long time ago that really changed my life? He said, sure, go ahead. So off I went. I started with all of us at one time were meant to have this relationship with God. He put us in this environment where we had everything we could ever want, our safety, our security, our sustenance, our satisfaction, everything in the garden. And then I went and told him the story of how we fell and how we were sent into the world with just a conscience. And I said, we all have a conscience. I said, even children know stuff that's fair or unfair. I said, just go to a park someday and watch little kids in a park. And you'll see that if somebody comes up and takes their bike, they have a fit. Why? Because that's not fair. It's mine. So God is the same way. He wants to buy us back because he made us. We're made in his image and we're his. And so I went on and I explained the whole thing as best I could. And when I was done, I said, is there any reason why you wouldn't want what I've just told you about? And he leans back in the chair and he goes like this. I just want to know for sure that there's even a God. And I thought, So I leaned forward really, really close and I took his face And I said, "You're looking at him." He says, "What?" I said, "He sent you, a total stranger, to tell you the best good news you would ever hear today. God is real and he loves you." And he was speechless. Then I said, "Well, I hope you'll think about what I said, and just know I'm going to be praying for you. And can I just leave you something?" Well, on my way in, I remembered that I had one of my videos that I had produced maybe 10 years before that on sharing the gospel. And here it is. It's called Transformation, and it's just a heartbeat away. So I said, "Can I leave you this DVD of mine that I produced, and maybe someday you can watch it?" He said, "Sure." So I left it with him. Well, now fast forward a couple months. I'm at the gym and I see Katherine on the treadmill, and there was one beside her empty. So I went up. I said, "Katherine, how's your father?" She said, "Oh, he died about 6 weeks ago." And I said, "Oh, Katherine, I'm so sorry. Did he ever come to know the Lord?" She goes, "Well, wait till you hear this story." I said, "What?" She said, "Well, my father didn't die without Jesus. My granddaughter, his granddaughter, came, who is a Christian, and shared with him the exact same story you shared with him. And after you had said, 'You're looking at God,' he realized that that was two witnesses, and he accepted Christ through his granddaughter." She goes, "But here's the best part." She said, "After the funeral," she said, "there was about 25, 30 of us, and we came to my house for food, and everybody brought food. And when we were done eating, we were all, just exhausted with sadness and mourning and stuff. And we said, well, let's all just sit down and I'll go make some popcorn and we'll watch a movie." So she went to put a movie in and it wouldn't eject and it wouldn't work. And so one of the teenagers came and started fussing with it. And guess what was in there? This. And all 30 people watched the entire 30-minute gospel presentation. Wow. I couldn't believe it. I went, "Oh my gosh, Katherine, they all watched it?" She goes, "Every one of them." And I go, "Oh, that is a God thing." She goes, "I'm glad you came, Rebecca, because now everybody knows the good news in my family." So you never know what one small little step of faith leads to, do you? So now you know Katherine's story. To be continued.